All right, we are now recording. Today's Shiur is being sponsored by Reb Avram and Judy Friedman. They're sponsoring the Shiur tonight, and it is in memory of Fega Bas Avram Yehuda Aryeh, whose yahrzeit was Daled Nisan. So we thank the Friedmans for their sponsorship, and everything we learned tonight is going to be L'Zecher Nishmas, Mrs. Fega Bas Avraham Yehuda Aryeh. So thank you very much to the Friedman family, and Hashem should grant that the Neshama Zol Habanan Aliyah. All right. Tonight's Shiur is going to be basically in two parts. The first part is going to be talking about the general overview of Chumash Vayikra and Parshas Vayikra. In the second part, I will entertain questions on Pesach after I review certain basic time schedules. We'll discuss at the end of this year what the schedule is in the future. Parshas Vayikra is the introduction to what is known in rabbinic literature as Torah's Kahanim. Torah's Kahanim means the teachings or the laws of the Kahanim. And of course, the Kahanim that we're referring to are the Kahanim who do the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash, and the main avoda that the Kahanim did in the Beis HaMikdash was the avoda of the karbanos. Now, a lot of people have a problem with karbanos. There's a lot of opposition on the part of people who consider themselves, I'll use the quote expression, enlightened. We're not barbaric. We're very, very sophisticated. We don't need animal ritual sacrifice in order to be close to God. So if we're going to think of karbanos as being ritual sacrifice or ritual offering, what basically we're going to be doing is doing a tremendous service to the word karban. It's a tremendous disservice because the word karban cannot be translated as sacrifice. There is nothing in the root of the word karban that implies giving something up. Hashem doesn't need you or me to give something up. Hashem is infinite. He possesses all. He's konei hakol, and consequently needs nothing from any of us. And if you're going to translate the word karban as offering, you're going to equally shortchange the entire concept of the word karban, because offering implies I have to appease the gods. I have to give him something that he wants. Are you kidding? Hashem needs the kidneys of a cow in order to be appeased. It's ridiculous. We're talking about the infinite God. Oh, if you're talking about idol worship, that's a different story. But we're not talking about idol worship. We're talking about the infinite Boro Olam. And since we're talking about the infinite Boro Olam, there's no question that we don't have to translate it as either sacrifice or offering. In fact, the word karban itself comes from the word karov. And karov means to come close. And the purpose of the karban is to come close to Hashem, to bring us, that we should bring ourselves closer to Hashem. How that can happen, we will try to explain. But the basic meaning is not sacrifice, not offering, but something entirely different. It should be noted that if there are any among us and I'm sure that there are many who are not vegetarians. That means that you eat chicken, you eat steak, or lamb chops, or chopped meat, or brisket, or leg of lamb, or corned beef, or salami, or pastrami, or any of the delicacies that are coming from meat. So there absolutely can't be any abhorrence on the part of anyone who eats meat to slaughtering an animal, because that's what we do. And I don't know if you know this. Animals, in order for you to eat steak, you have to kill an animal. By the way, if you wear leather shoes, or if you have a fancy leather pocketbook, you can't get it unless the animal's dead and you use its hide. And if you have a leather couch that you like to sit on, or a leather easy chair, or leather in your car seats, don't think that, oh, I don't like carbonos, it's so primitive. You're doing the exact same thing, and for no spiritual uplifting purpose, other than I like my comfort, I like my steak, and so on and so forth. So let's jettison any negative ideas about the eating of carbonos and the roasting of carbonos. And I have a feeling that the majority of the people in the Shiur and in our circles have a very warm affinity for barbecues. and if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at any of the Pesach programs that promise welcome barbecue. Everything barbecue, Saturday night barbecue, Sunday night barbecue, poolside barbecue, everything barbecue. Okay, so if you're eating a barbecue, you're not roasting tomatoes. You're not eating a shish kebab that's vegetarian. So we have to get off this biblical criticism kick that the so-called reform movement introduced with an abhorrence of ritual sacrifice for carbonos by saying it's primitive. No more primitive than your backyard barbecue. In fact, your backyard barbecue is probably more primitive, because all it's doing is, as the name of a restaurant in a small little town in New Jersey, which I passed, which says, stuff your face. That's the name of the restaurant. And consequently, if that's what you're interested in, it's much worse. And I have to tell you, I was once vacationing way upstate New York. It was New Hampshire. It was New Hampshire. I went up to New Hampshire, and we had a very nice place all the way up in the White Mountains. It was really beautiful. And I like to go for a little jog along the road. And I'm running on this road, and I see a big sign for a restaurant. And it's advertising all you can eat, $7.95, ribs, steak, seemed unbelievable. I wanted to know the name of this restaurant. I knew it couldn't be kosher. There's almost no Jews up there, but sure enough, a big sign came up as I rounded the hill, and you're not going to believe what it said. Your mama's not going to believe what it said. It said, Fressalinos. Fressalinos is an Italian Jew who likes to eat. You understand? Fressalinos. That was the name of the all-you-can-eat restaurant. And nobody says, oh, what a primitive restaurant. They were lined up. They were all lined up. So let's get off the kick of carbonos as being something which needs to be brought into our modern world. On the contrary, it's so modern, it's so clear, it's so beautiful. In fact, it's the only real way for a Jew to come very close to Hashem, to be much closer than just prayer, because we don't have any karbonos today. And as the Gemara says in the Shalma Parim Sifosenu, our prayers are instead of the karbonos. The karbonos were a much more physically active and aware way to come close to Hashem, as I hope to try to explain a little bit today. Let's take a look at the concept of karbonos. What types of various carbon, coming close things, are there in this week's Sedger? The first thing that it talks about is an olah. Im olah karbono. An olah is a burnt offering. It's a burnt carbon. It's something that the entire carbon, and by the way, I should emphasize that this is the only carbon in the entire gamut of carbonos that is not eaten. Every other carbon is eaten. This is the only one that's not eaten. But that's because what it represents. And we'll come back to what it represents a little bit later. Let's go to the next carbon, the shlomim. You know what a shlomim carbon is? We say every single day, except during Pesach, Mizmar L'Soda, a song of thanks. Todah, Todah L'Hashem. A Todah is a carbon shlomim. A carbon shlomim is when you take an animal, it could be from the cow family or it could be from the sheep family, and you invite the whole family. You have to bring with a carbon todah 40 loaves of bread, in addition to the wine pouring that goes along with it. And you have to finish all these loaves, all the wine, all the meat in one day. You have to finish it. You can't leave anything over. The Kohen gets a part, and the rest of the family eats it all up. And they have to eat it quickly, in a short time, and they have to finish it within one day. And that's why you have to invite everybody, because everybody's got to have a piece. In fact, the carbon Pesach was a carbon shlomim. It represented, we're ingesting the freedom that God gave us. And the shlomim is symptomatic of being bishalom. I'm coming to Hashem and I'm saying, I am so at peace with you. You know what it is for a human being to feel that I'm at peace with Hashem? I have no tightness. There's nothing more I want or need. And even though there may be things I want or need, but I recognize that you give me all that I need, even though I might want or feel I need more. The reality is that you've given me everything. That's the way I look at life. Hashem, you've given me everything. My wants and my needs, that's my hang-up. But you, Hashem, have given me everything. The overwhelming majority of all our lives is spent living a pleasurable life. You don't believe me? You ever ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? It's not pleasurable. A coffee in the morning, 2 eggs sunny side up, yeah, with a little French fries on the side in a restaurant? No? You never went out to eat in any of the restaurants in Eretz Yisrael? You had a falafel and a pita? We're pleasurable. Rabbi Victor Miller was once walking on the street, and a man wanted to keep up with him because he went for a daily walk to stay healthy. And the man said, Rabbi, can I join you on your walk? He said, sure. So the rabbi says, good morning, how are you? He says, Rabbi, life is, you know what life is. It's so difficult. He said, you're not enjoying life? So the man answered, well, what's there to enjoy, Rabbi? You know, the ganze Leben is the Chablotta. You know, what's the whole life? It's nothing. So Rabbi Wigner said to him, let me ask you something, mister. Did you eat breakfast this morning? He said, yes. He said, what did you have? He said, I had a toast and some muffin and a little jelly with a fried egg and a coffee with a Danish. So Rabbi Wigner said, wow, did you enjoy it? He said, wow, what's there to enjoy in this world? This is Olam Hazeh. You're not supposed, and the world to come I'll enjoy. And Rabbi Wigner said, you're making a big mistake. If you didn't enjoy what Hashem gave you, you committed a sin. It's sinful not to enjoy this world. It's mamash and avera not to enjoy this world. You have to say to yourself, Hashem, you've given me so much. I have so much. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. I was able to tie my shoes this morning. Thank you, Hashem. I was able to wear freshly laundered clothing. Thank you, Hashem. I opened my eyes and I saw colors. Thank you, Hashem. I opened my eyes and I see all these people on Zoom. Baruch Hashem. It's wonderful. Consequently, it's important to be a shlomim and to come b'shalom to Hashem. And when you bring a shlomim, you can bring either a male korban as a shlomim or a female as a shlomim. You can bring a bakar or you can bring a tzon. You're at peace. Bring whatever you want. But when you bring a chatos, when there's a korban chatos, because you know none of us are perfect. And when we bring a korban chatos, the korban we bring has to be one that is a young sheep or goat. And depending on who's bringing the chatas, it's either going to be a male or a female. Generally speaking, when a korban chatas is brought, it's usually brought as a male korban. As if it's a plain ordinary Jew, it's brought as a female korban chatas. While if it's a leader amongst the Jewish people, then it's brought as a male korban chatas. There are reasons for this. There are concepts behind this. The name of the animal has got to be a ben bakar, young, strong. If someone sins, they have to come back to Hashem and coordinate a reconnection with God through the fact that they committed a sin. And they reconnect this way by bringing a korban that represents them. Something that represents me. I made a mistake. Now the question is, what kind of person am I now that I made a mistake? What do I say about myself? I'm too old to start over. I can't get any better. I'm finished. I can't change. When I hear a 20-year-old state, I've been like this for 20 years, I can't change, I laugh. It's a joke. You can't be serious. 20 years old and you can't change? You ever hear Rabbi Akiva? He was 40 years old and he turned the world upside down from that point on. You ever hear Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu? You know how old Moshe was when he came to Egypt to take the Jewish people out of Egypt? You know how old he was? Anybody know? 80 years old. Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old. You know how old Avraham Avinu was when Yitzchak was born? 100 years old. And if you could tell me, yeah, but they lived longer then. Yeah, but that doesn't really jive, you see, because because Avraham Avinu lived till 175. Now, if you take 175, you see, I need Mordechai, my mathematician, to come over here and give us the answer to this one. But everybody knows the answer. If you take 175 and divide it in half, right? So you're going to get 87 and a half, yeah? Right?
Yeah.
So that means that if a person lives till 100, okay, that means he's starting his family at 50. You know many people who do that? There aren't many. Most people at 50 figure they're over the hill, as they say. You know what that means? Over the hill means I've climbed to the top and now I only see the bottom. I can only look down. I can't look up anymore. I can't grow anymore. That's ridiculous. And therefore, the carbon says, bring a young carbon. Bring yourself as a young person. Think young. You are like this 1 or 2 year old animal, and you are virile, strong. You're capable of many, many things. Your life is before you, and you're going to get energy from eating this particular carbon. And the energy you're going to get from eating this particular carbon is going to transform you from what you were when you were sinful to what you are now that you have decided to say, don't cast me away to old age. Don't make me think that I'm old and I can't grow. That's ridiculous. The person thinks like that. It's so unfortunate. It's almost as if you could say to the Chevra Kadisha, do me a favor, drop the box off at my front porch. I'm going to jump right in. Doesn't make any sense. So a carbon is a way for you to come close to Hashem no matter what, and that you can draw yourself nearer. Now, you'll notice that there are different animals that are brought for carbonos. For instance, there's a sheep. Now, every one of us knows that a sheep is a flock animal. What happens when someone makes a mistake and they stray from the flock? Like it says, Mizmor LeDavid, Hashem ro'i lo echsar. Hashem is my shepherd. That means I'm like his sheep. So if a sheep wanders off and he goes away from the flock, you have to bring him back into the flock, right? So he has to become a sheep that follows the shepherd. Now, it's interesting to note that you can bring as a carbon chatos either a sheep or a goat. And Rav Shimshon Hirsch points out that the preferred animal for a carbon is a goat. You know why? Because both the sheep and the goat are a flock animal. Both of them will follow their shepherd or the shepherd dog that leads them. But there's one difference. Remember we used to go to a petting zoo when we were kids? You know, you buy for a nickel, you buy those things you put in your hand and they lick it out of your hand and they eat it. You know, what happens when you feed it to a goat and the goat doesn't want, right? So you want, well, the goat is eating, you want to touch him. He don't let you touch him. So, you know, you grab the horn, you know, pull him closer. You know what that goat does? He digs his feet into the ground. He won't move. You can't budge him. He's just a little goat, but he's stronger than you because he won't budge. He will only follow his own shepherd. He will not follow you. That's what a Jew is supposed to say when a person does an Avera. I'm like a little goat that's young, and if you come and try to take me off the path that my shepherd is leading me, I'm going to butt my horns at you, and I am not going to move. I'm going to dig my feet into the ground. You cannot budge me away from my straight path in loyalty to Hashem. And that's why we bring a goat as a carbon chatos. And that's why we bring a goat as a carbon Pesach. The preferred animal for the carbon Pesach was the goat. Yes, you could bring a sheep, but the goat, the Gedi Izim, was the one that was most often brought because it demonstrates not only that you are a flock animal, but that you will not go to anybody but your shepherd. So Vayikra is introducing to us the total burnt offering, which is demonstrative of My soul is so close to you, Hashem. There's nothing but my loyalty to you. The Shlomim is a korban that shows I am at peace with Hashem. And that peace is demonstrated by your enjoying the food of the Shlomim with the family. And then, of course, like we said, the Chatas and the Osham and any other type of korban. So basically, what we've done is we've discussed a system whereby the korbanos are really a much greater recognition of our closeness to Hashem, because we're demonstrating we are like these animals. We are like the sheep that follows your flock. We are like the goat that will only go with the shepherd that leads the flock. We are like the bull. We're like the bull that will charge at anyone who tries to take us away from our job. We're going to be like the bull who pulls the plow and works in Hashem's fields. We're like the ram that's leading the world in a direction, the same way the ram leads the flock of sheep. And consequently, korbanos are very, very symbolic of the closeness that every Jew can reach when it comes to our Kodesh Baruch. Okay, so that's the introduction to korbanos, and it's all in Parsha's Vayikra. And you have an opportunity to read any of the commentary of Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch that illuminates so brilliantly and beautifully the entire system of korbanos. You're going to be enlightened, really truly enlightened, as to the beautiful genius of Hashem in giving us the korban, the closeness that we desire towards the spiritual entity that's connected to our souls. We are now switching over, and we're going to go to a few things that I want to discuss with you about Pesach. And I'm going to talk about some Erev Pesach issues, because next week there will not be a shiur due to the fact that it's B'dikas Chometz night next Thursday night. And there's a lot of work to be done up until then. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go through some basics. And these basics will, in fact, be published on our website within the next week to give you the time schedules and the basic requirements. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute the entire chevra so that if you at this point wish to ask questions, it will certainly be acceptable. Let's see if we can unmute everybody.
You do it yourself.
Everybody does it themselves, Rabbi.
You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah. Unmute yourself. That's all. Just click on the unmute button. I thought I had one here.
Yeah, I'm sure of my face.
Yeah. Okay. There was one here, but it seems to have disappeared.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if we do this. Nope, that didn't help. All right. In case
Everybody's doing it, Rabbi. Everybody's doing it themselves.
Everybody who'd like to go right ahead and unmute. Okay. So I'm now going to give some basic stuff about next week. First, unusual this year, the Tainus Bechorim, the fast of the firstborn, is not
Friday.
on Friday.
Thursday, right?
It can't be on Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach, because we don't fast on Shabbos. It also can't be on Friday, because we're not going to go into Shabbos fasting. There's only one fast.
Asar b'tevis.
It comes on Friday, which is Asar b'tevis, which we have this year.
No, but Pesach comes on Shabbos. Times is Friday.
I know, but we're not.
What?
Yeah.
No, if Pesach is
Oh, yes.
if Pesach is Motzai Shabbos.
Yeah.
We do not make the fast on Friday, okay? Because it's already pushed off,
Right.
so we don't make it on Friday, okay? Instead, we make it on Thursday. Now that's a little bit of an advantage to a degree, because Thursday is not going to be Erev Pesach where you have to worry about chametz so much,
Right.
because you still have a full day Thursday to get rid of it. So in our shul, Baruch Hashem, on Monday we have the zchus of finishing Masechta Pesachim, and we're going to make a siyum in the shul, not on Monday, but on Thursday. In order for Tainis Bechorim, we're going to have a siyum and bagels and everything. So if you're in the neighborhood, please drop by and join our siyum. It will be online for those who wish after the minyan, after 8 o'clock, somewhere around 9 o'clock. Okay. Next Thursday. So that's Tainis Bechorim next Thursday.
Rabbi.
Question, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. Now, the siyum for the Tanis B'chayim, is there anything significant for non-B'chayim?
If you go to a siyum and you're not a Bechor, basically you're attending a Seudas mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to be.
Okay, so that's it. But that's not more than that.
Anybody can go.
Anyone
it's not
can
a
go.
question of if you can go or not. But
it's brought down by the Shach.
Is there an Indian to go anyways?
Yeah, the Gemara says that. The Gemara says it's a Yom Tava l'Rabbanan, and in fact, the Shach and Hilchas Avelis goes so far as to say that this is one of the only types of Seudah that even an Ovel is allowed to attend, because of the greatness of making a siyum. And the Gemara records it, so it's a mitzvah to attend the siyum. All right. We've spoken many times about the word siyum, what an unusual word it is.
Right.
And those of you who remember, okay, the word siyum is a very unusual word, because the 4 letters of the word siyum, when you spell them out, are equal to each other. I'll explain. The first letter is a samach. Samach is spelled samach mem chaf. A samach mem chaf spells the word samach, right?
Right.
A samach in gematria is 60.
It's 60.
A mem and a chaf in gematria is 60. The beginning of the word letter is equal to the end of the letter. Samach mem chaf, 60 is equal 60. Next letter, yud. A yud is spelled yud vav dalid. Yud vav dalid. Yud is 10. Vav and dalid is also 10. The beginning of the word letter yud is equal to the end of the letter yud. And of course, vav is 2 vavs. Vav equals vav. Mem is 2 mems. Mem equals mem. This teaches us that the beginning equals the end, and the end equals the beginning. So that means anyone who attends a siyum, even though you're only at the end, you're participating in the entire Masechta. And everybody's saying, oh man, I don't got to learn anything. I just got to come to the last daf. Not so. Not so. It's as if, remember, only as if, but not the same thing. Anyway, so the siyum is going to be on Thursday. Everybody is invited. Now, B'dikas Chametz is going to be made on Thursday night with a bracha, which is unusual, because whenever B'dikas Chametz is made the night before the 14th, you normally do not say bracha. But in this case, we are going to say a bracha, and we're going to do the search for chametz the same way we do every single year. And we put the chametz away, even though we're going to be eating chametz tomorrow on Friday. And again, you're allowed to eat chametz even on Shabbos, which we'll get to later on. The chametz is put aside, and when we're finished with the bedika, we do say the kol chamira. Okay. Okay. On Friday.
What, Thursday night?
Thursday night, you say the kol chamira after the service.
Okay,
right? On Friday, you're supposed to burn the chametz by noon. Noon is 1 o'clock, chatzos. Why do we burn it by chatzos? The Gemara explains that the reason we burn it by chatzos is so that we don't confuse it with other years. People, we are not sophisticated. We forget. And all we have to do is this year not burn chametz by noon, and next year we'll say, gee, when does chametz have to be burned? Oh, I have till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember last year that's what I did. And we won't remember that last year was a Friday. So even though on every other year we burn chametz by the end of the 5th hour of the day, which is somewhere around 11:35, this year you don't have to burn it by 11:35. You can burn it by 1 p.m., which is chatzos, but you must burn it by chatzos because we're going to go according to the biblical command, and the biblical command is that you cannot have chametz past chatzos, due to the pasuk that says ach bayom harishon, and ach means cholak, which means you divide the day in half.
Are we burning?
So you're burning the chametz. But Shabbos you can still have chametz.
By 1 o'clock.
By
Are you
one.
burning this year or doing last year? Put it down the toilets.
You can burn it this year by 1 o'clock.
Because of the pandemic. Okay.
You can burn the chametz by 1 o'clock. Yes. Now.
No, he's asking if you're allowed to put it down the toilet because of the
Yes,
pandemic.
that's also a way.
Yeah, I'm saying because
the only reason we burn the chametz is because of the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and and we want to give Rabbi Yehuda his due, and consequently we say that everybody agrees you could burn it. Even the Rabbanon agree you could burn it. So we're going to burn it. Of course, if you get rid of it any other way, it's also acceptable. All right? Now, one difference, when we burn the chametz this year, Erev Pesach, we do not
say it right.
Say kol chamira.
I was going to ask you that.
We do not say kol chamira when we burn it this year because we're going to have chametz left over to eat Friday night or Shabbos morning. And even those of us who are not going to have any chametz left over on Thursday night, on Friday night, and Shabbos morning, we don't say the kol chamira. Kol chamira is a bittul. A bittul means a nullification of the chametz. What basically we're doing is making it hefker. And as we've discussed many times on the first daf in Masechta Pesachim, where it says Orla Arba Asa Bokin as Chamsel Araner, and the famous Tosfos over there, which talks about the fact that why do you have to search for chametz? After all you have to do is nullify it. And Chazal Davav point out that even though bebittel ba'alma sagi, even though it would be enough if you just made a bittel, nevertheless, dilma asi lemechle, you may come to eat it because you're not used not to having chametz. So consequently, this year we're going to burn chametz Erev Pesach by 1 o'clock. We don't have to burn it by 11:30 because it's not actually Erev Pesach. Okay.
Rabbi.
Yes, question.
Can you say kol chamira on Shabbos afternoon or Shabbos?
We do exactly that. We're going to get to that. We are going to get to that soon. Okay. All right. We're going to get to that in a few moments. All right.
I jumped the gun.
Now, interestingly enough, this year on Friday, we're going to say Mizmor L'Soda and Lamanatseach.
Right.
On a regular Erev Pesach, we do not say Mizmor L'Soda. Remember when we talked about the Karbanos? I mentioned that the Karban Toda has 40 loaves of bread. So you have 1 day to eat it in. But if I'm going to start eating my 40 loaves of bread on Erev Pesach, I'm going to be running into Pesach till the whole next day to eat it. And consequently, you can't bring a Karban Toda on Erev Pesach. And therefore, normally you can't say Mizmor L'Soda Erev Pesach. But this year, because Erev Pesach is Shabbos, we are going to say Mizmor L'Soda on Friday. In addition, we're also going to be saying Lamanatseach in the davening on Friday. And now comes Shabbos.
But no Tachanun.
No.
No.
You don't say Tachanun in the whole Nissan.
I know. I was just being
my
kidding.
favorite month.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I spoke with everybody in our shul about it. Those who haven't been in shul haven't heard me say it, but the Satmar Rebbe Zal once said that if the Goyim would know how much fun a Jew has when it comes a day you don't have to say Tachanun, they would all convert. Okay, so you can think about that a little bit. Okay. On Friday night and on Shabbos, chametz is permitted, and consequently, there are many people who will set aside a pita bread or a bulkala in order to be able to eat chametz, although they can't eat cooked chametz because there's no way to get rid of the dishes and get rid of the cooked stuff that sticks to the pots and so on. The meal has to be clearly a Pesach meal, but the roll that you eat can be chametz. You should eat it over a tissue paper, not a napkin. Eat it over a tissue paper. Hopefully there won't be any crumbs, but if there are, try to swallow them. If you can't, take the tissue paper, fold it up,
Rabbi,
put it aside, and wait till the next morning. For the next morning also, if you're going to use a challah roll, make it a small challah roll, no crumbs, hopefully, and over a tissue paper, and when any crumbs are left over, roll it up, put it in the tissue paper, put it aside, and when it comes time to get rid of the chametz, I'll discuss those times in a minute, you flush it, because if you flush it, it's the same as burning as far as getting rid of the chametz. You fulfill the mitzvah of tashbisu. There is also another method that people today have recommended in order to do tashbisu. You could take, if you have any crumbs left over, you can nullify the crumbs by making them impossible to be eaten by pouring a little bleach over them. If you pour a little bleach over the crumbs, it automatically becomes impossible to eat, and consequently you've nullified the chametz, and then you can just throw it out in the garbage. It's not a problem.
Rabbi,
But our minhag is to flush it, So now we're going to talk about Shabbos. I'm going to take questions on Shabbos in a minute. I want to finish the concepts of Shabbos first. The first thing is Friday night, you can have a roll. Shabbos morning, you can have a roll. But the zman in the morning for eating chametz is 10:30, 10:25. The latest time you can eat chametz Shabbos morning is 10:25. That's the last time for eating chametz. You must have gotten rid of your chametz.
That means, excuse me, Rabbi, that means you have to have an early minyan.
And saying
one at a time.
I will again take questions in a moment. The first thing you've got to do by 10:25 is the last time you can eat chametz. You must nullify the chametz and get rid of it by 11:43 over here in the eastern seaboard, northeastern seaboard, by New York City environs. Once again, those manim are 10:25 to stop eating chametz and 11:43 to nullify and get rid of the chametz on Shabbos, and saying the kol chamira
11:43
by 11:43.
Rabbi, I have a suggestion.
You got to say the kol chamira by 11:43. Now the only thing is, this creates a situation where you have a problem with shalosh shudas, and we're supposed to have 3 meals on Shabbos. So the Friday night meal, no problem. We have a challah roll. The Shabbos morning meal, most shuls are going to daven at 7 o'clock in the morning. You'll be home by 8:30. You'll start the Suda by 8:30, 8:45. You'll have a roll, you'll have some fish, some herring, all right? And you'll bench, and you'll finish the first meal. Then, let's say you finish by 9:15. So you take a break for at least a half an hour, 40 minutes. A lot of things you can do in those 40 minutes. You can learn something, or you can study the Haggadah, or you can learn something else, or you can go for a walk, or you can have a friendly discussion about Pesach, or you can learn the daf. There's many things you could do. But take a nap. But for 40 minutes, that's what you should do. Then you go back, you can wash again, because it's not yet 10:25. You can wash again and have shalosh shudas. And you don't have to bench by 10:25, as long as you finish with the chametz by 10:25. That's your third meal. You've had bread at every meal. You're fine. That's one method. There are 2 other methods. The second method is that instead of having any chametz at the Friday night meal, or at the Shabbos morning, or at the Shabbos late morning meal, you use egg matzo. egg matzah is not acceptable to be used on Pesach. Unless one is old and sick and infirm, one may not have egg matzah around. It's not chametz, but it has to be treated like chametz. Even though it's not chametz again, it's got to be treated like chametz. So we can't eat it beyond 10:25, but you can use it for lechem mishnah Friday night. You can use it for lechem mishnah Shabbos morning, and you can use it for lechem mishnah at the third meal with the break in between up till 10:25. Now, the only problem with egg matzah is you have to eat enough of it to fulfill the requirement of eating something made from grain. And consequently, even though normally you might only eat a half a matzah, when it comes to egg matzah, because it's so very fine, you should eat at least a matzah and a half. Some say even 2 matzahs in order to fulfill the requirement. Now, that's not a lot because it's very thin. It's very...
With a chali roll, you only have a small piece of chali roll. Right?
A chali roll, as long as you have a kazayas, is enough. Egg matzah kazayas is much larger. So therefore, according to that, you should have at least 1.5. If you can't, 1, okay, we'll take a smaller size of a kazayas. But that's what you can use. You can use egg matzah, and then you don't have any problem with chametz at all. And the third option is you have the morning meal, you finish by 10:25. You finish the meal, you finish with the chametz by 10:25. You can eat and continue to eat the meal till 11:15. Then you can spend the afternoon doing what you normally do on Shabbos, of Shabbos activities, including learning and walking, taking a walk and taking a nap and so on. And then in the afternoon, not too late in the day, certainly not past, let's say 3 o'clock, but in the afternoon, you can have a snack. The snack could be anything you like.
Fruit.
That's not grain.
Fruit.
But even according to Mishnah Boro, a real Seudah Shabbos would include a piece of fish maybe, or some chicken, right? If you like it, if that's what you like. But if you like fruit and that's what you enjoy, eat what you enjoy. Shabbos is supposed to be a delight, an oneg.
Oneg.
Eat what you like.
Yes. I just want to suggest.
Okay.
I just want to suggest regarding what to eat a chametz that doesn't crumb. Another item that you can use, which is those wraps. You know those wraps, the tortilla wraps.
A pizza bread.
Not pizza bread.
Pizza bread.
Besides pizza, those wraps. Those wraps.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because
No, that's like
to be shleimah.
I have to interrupt you with the wraps because there is a very large controversy amongst poskim as to the proper bracha for wraps.
Really? Oh.
We should,
even if it's not mazonos.
yes, even if it's not mazonos, because according to the poskim that are not saying you should say a motzi, it's because generally the wraps are only there to hold the food together and they're not there as a lechatchila to eat as bread. It's so thin and so fine, it's only there as a holding together pattern. And consequently, there are...
So is a pita bread. It's also only made to hold the falafel or whatever's in there.
The difference is that
any bread
it makes crumbs. It makes crumbs.
The difference with the pita bread is pita breads are thick. Most pita breads are thick.
Right.
They are much thicker than a wrap. A wrap is so thin,
right?
It's paper thin.
Right.
And consequently, I won't say you can't make a motzi on a wrap, because there are poskim that say you can make a motzi on a wrap. But I will say that it is a controversy, and I would recommend avoiding the controversy by using a type of challah, bulkala, or pita bread that's thicker and is capable of making a motzi. Okay.
It has to be shalom.
A pita bread is shalom.
Yeah, but the rep isn't.
Oh, yeah.
Why
no,
isn't a rep?
It could
Why
be
isn't
a wrap could be
Shalom?
Shalom too. It could be one long wrap.
Why not?
It could be Shalom. But it's so thin that it is somewhat of a problem. Now, if you use a wrap and you make a motzi on it, I can't say you're wrong. I personally would recommend.
Big Zonos?
It's a question if it needs a bracha altogether.
Really?
If it's only tafel to the main thing, there's a
Really?
question if you need to say a bracha.
Not even Zonos? Wow.
I'm not saying you
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I'm not saying you don't say a bracha.
Okay.
I'm saying that you have to understand, if the wrap is only there to hold the tuna fish,
It's
and
bottle.
it doesn't, it's a tafel to the tuna. Okay, I would avoid it. I would only eat a wrap in the middle of a meal after I washed on something.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So let's go a little further now. Okay. I want to cover a little bit more ground before we have to end. Okay. When you come home from shul at night, after Shabbos, the Seder should be ready to be begun. Therefore, you must finish all preparations before Shabbos begins on Friday. That means that you're going to have to, on Friday, number one, make the salt water. Number two, chop up all the charoses. Number three, you're going to have to grate all the moror. Number four, you're going to have to check all the romaine lettuce. You've got to do all of this before Shabbos, because you can't do it on Shabbos in preparation for the Seder. And you're supposed to start the Seder right away, and doing some of these activities, even on Yom Tov, are not in keeping with the Yom Tov.
What about setting the table?
Setting the table should not be done on Shabbos, only after Shabbos. The setting of the table immediately upon Shabbos being ending, and the person who lights candles in the house lights candles after the appropriate time, which is after, say, a little bit 5 more minutes.
Right.
Then after you've benched licht, then you can begin to set the table, but not before, because you're not allowed to prepare on Shabbos for Yom Tov. All right. So it's going to be a little late, and that's why I caution you that you should try to move the Seder along. I know there's a tendency to desire to say as much Divrei Torah as you possibly can, but it's important to move the Seder along so that you get to the Afikomen by Chatzos. Chatzos is 1 a.m. Hopefully, if you start by 9:30, you should, or 10 o'clock even, you have 3 hours, spend an appropriate amount of time discussing the Haggadah, saying some Divrei Torah, of course, to enhance the Yom Tov, keeping to the instructions of how to do the mitzvos. Very important. Drinking the cups of wine in the proper measure. Eating a kazayas of moror, romaine lettuce. Dipping it in the charoses and not making the charoses on Yom Tov. And eating a kazayas of matzah, all with the exception of the moror where leaning to your left side. That's the proper way to focus on what to do with the Pesach Seder, to fulfill the mitzvahs of the Seder. According, I think the Vilna Gaon said that there are something like 52, or was it 62 mitzvahs at the Seder that you can fulfill? It's amazing.
That many?
Mitzvahs, at least 52.
Wow.
That you can fulfill at the Seder, including the 2 very important mitzvahs, the Oraisa of eating matzah and telling over the story of the going out of Egypt. It's very important. I should also mention that there's a mitzvah of enjoying Yom Tov. There's a mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov. And we should not negate the power of that mitzvah. It's crucial that the Yom Tov be an enjoyable one. And avoiding controversy and dispute. And instead, singing and thanking Hashem for the gift of freedom that is so permeated into the souls of every Jew that we've cherished it for all these years. Rabbi, I want to wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.
Thank you.
In the website,
Rabbi,
a lot of these things will be posted, and you can read them at that point. I'll take questions for a few moments. Go ahead.
yeah, what about those people that have a non-Jewish maid or goiter? Is she allowed to do on her own without telling her set the table on Shabbos afternoon?
If she does it for her own benefit,
Without telling her, yes.
if she does it for her own benefit,
What does that mean for our own benefit, Rabbi?
she doesn't want to stick around later and do it. It's too late for her. I want to get it done now. I want to go out and get a cup of coffee later. Whatever it is, I want to get it over with. If she's doing it for her own benefit, it is permitted. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Rabosai, have a wonderful Shabbos. I want to thank, once again, before we end, I want to thank Reb Avraham and Judy Friedman for sponsoring today's Shiur in memory of Fega Bas Avraham Yehuda Aryeh, so Rabban Alichtik in Gan Eden, and we thank them for their sponsorship. By the way, if there's anyone here who'd like to dedicate the Shabbos Hagadol Drasha this Shabbos, let me know. There are dedications still available. What we learn at this Shabbos Hagadol Drasha in the shul, if you're in the neighborhood, of course, you're always welcome. I think it's at 5:15, and you're all welcome to join together with us. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. Enjoy the Shabbos. Go to a Shabbos Hagadol Drasha and enjoy. We will meet again, Yitz Hashem, after Pesach.
Okay.
Ooh,
So the next 2 weeks
Okay.
that will be on. Next 2
After
weeks.
Pesach, we will
Rabbi Yasher Koyach, as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful Shabbos. Take care.
Thank you.
Take
Have a
care.
show.
thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.